That's exactly what happens when the gangsters, the mob, is dealing with the dock and this going on. Well, at one point when they realize that the Nazis have infiltrated American soil, you've got the police and the mobsters turning their weapons on to the Nazis who infiltrated the coast. And at one point they stop and look at each other. We're normally shooting each other and realize that they have a common enemy. And it's just a little scene in that. But we've also seen that kind of happen in other movies. And they talk about it in The Godfather. But the point is, there has been a lot of motorcycle gangs that have, or excuse me, gangs.
They're looking at it this way, Joe.
Wait a minute, let me finish the thought. That have come out with Trump. If every year, right, you will see them all ride through Washington, D.C., in support of President Trump because of the American
The other thing,
aspect.
too, is, right, I don't know if you're aware of this, right, but there was a woman that came on a talk show. Her father and her brother, they're in the mafia, right? She didn't say who she was, but she also said that the mafia is starting to, come together, all of them, and I think they're going to be going after Black Lives Matter and Antifa because what's happening is there's no way they want, like Biden and all the rest of them to take over because if they do that, then their business is going to go down.
Yeah.
So
well, the problem is going after Black Lives Matter, right? Because there's the Black Lives Matter aspect that are very legit. Like they don't want they want brutality or abuse to end. Who doesn't? Everybody can get behind that. But there are arms of, I guess, or factions of Black Lives Matter that, they want to see the country go socialist or they're extreme in their demands. And I think that Black Lives Matter as an organization need to have better communication as to what their platform is, what it is that they actually want. I don't think they're going to get a lot of mileage if they continue to say, we don't think that black men of a certain age should even be allowed to be arrested. That isn't going to fly because that's not how America works. The law is blind and it should be equally applied. I know everyone's going to be like, well, it doesn't. That's not the point. The point is it's supposed to, right, Jerry? The Lady Justice has a blindfold on for a reason.
Yeah, because she saw what's going on. She'd be crying.
Well, that's true, too.
The thing that we have to understand here, Jerry, the thing that we have to understand here, what they want, okay, this is what they want. Eventually, if Biden gets in, they want to get rid of Social Security. So everybody out there who's getting the Social Security check, kiss it goodbye, right? Not only that, they want the white people who own a home, right, to give up their home to a black person. That's never going to happen in my lifetime here. The second thing is, right, I mean, they want black people, they won't have to work, and white people are going to support them. I mean, these are some of the planks on their platform, Joe. I mean, are you going to go for that? I would never go for that. They want to get rid. They want to get rid of energy. In other words, when they build a house, all right, especially in the winter, there won't be any heat. There won't be any air conditioning in the buildings. Is this what we want for our future?
Are you crossing the Green New Deal stuff with Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, that's part of the Green New Deal. But that's all with the Black Lives and all that. They all meld together.
Well, but they do and they don't because we can't put the attributes of the Green New Deal onto Black Lives Matter or vice versa. We got to keep them separate. It's not fair to do that to them. But the Green New Deal, I mean, if you actually look at that, it's calling for what would be not millions, but billions of solar panels, okay? As well as windmills and things of this nature, doing away with gasoline in oil-based energy whatsoever, even natural gas. I mean, look, we have more natural gas in the United States that would take, and it's the cleanest form of energy that we have, but they don't want that to be used either. What they don't talk about with the Green New Deal, folks, is what the building, and Richard, thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it. For what the number of solar panels that would have to be built, right? The environmental impact, right? Birds would be gone, animals would be displaced. You would have to get rid of vegetation and trees. So it's just not realistic. And Joe Biden's adopted this, Joe, right? He's they're saying plagiarized. He's just kind of taken Bernie's thing and AO's thing, put his name on it. And the thing about it, what we call this normally in a campaign is the triangulation in a campaign. When you go to the left and you solidify the base, then you return and you come back down more conservative or more into the middle. He isn't triangulizing. There's no triangulation going on in the Biden campaign. He's gone left, and now he continues to go left, in which I think as we go into the general election, like I said at the top of the hour, this is going to be a crime. A blue wave vote is a crime wave vote, and I think that's how the Trump administration has got to position it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe, 100% on that. And I want to pick up on two things that Richard said. First is that Green New Deal. And on the Green New Deal, remember, most people think about the Green New Deal just by its name as being a climate change deal. And there are a lot of issues with the climate change piece, Joe, that you were starting to outline, the cost of this and what it's really going to do to our economy and so on long term. But the second piece of the Green New Deal that people don't talk enough about is the Green New Deal goes after economic inequality.
Yeah.
So there's a redistribution piece to the Green New Deal as well. And that ties into Richard's second point about these groups that are still practicing this identity politics based upon race. They are essentially, a lot of these groups, they're essentially a new form of segregationists.
Yep.
That's all that they are. I'm not a segregationist. You're not a segregationist, Joe. Not many of us are. We want to get beyond the color. We want to have one America. We want to have an America that's based upon common values. That's what a country is based upon. And we want to get away from people who constantly push segregationist policies, which I think is just another pseudonym for race-based identity.
Yeah. And that's concerning because we see all of this talk about having and it's coming from the Antifa and the BLM crowd to have black police forces and black neighborhoods and going backwards as far as I'm concerned. And I agree with you. It's I thought we were close to and really headed to that one America and one goal because when I talk to friends of mine who are minorities, black or people of color in my age bracket, I could be talking to my cousins, my father. I mean, as far as their mentality, right, their outlook on family and work and politics and paying your taxes and all of that. It seems to be that it's a younger generation who lost that.
They've been indoctrinated.
And they've been
indoctrinated in the colleges and the schools and so on by these, very liberal. We've lost control of the schools and many of these things. When I was raised, I'm a little bit older than you are, Joe, but when I was raised, we really were raised with a very heavy Dr. Martin Luther King influence in that you judge somebody by the content of the character, not the color of their skin.
Yeah,
that is literally the way that we were raised. And I was raised, I did grow up in Worcester. And we had a very eclectic neighborhood. We had kids of all ethnic backgrounds. We had kids of all colors. Huge schools, except for maybe the elementary schools. We had huge schools. The middle schools, what they called junior highs at that time, and the high schools. I went to Flag Street School, to Forest Grove, and then to Doherty High School for a few years until my parents moved. But it's, it was a very, very eclectic group of kids. And we all got along reasonably well. That's not to say that there weren't some disruptions periodically, but we all got along reasonably well.
Right.
It's just the truth.
I don't even recall any of the disruptions or issues in elementary school, and we also had junior high school, ever having to do with race.
No.
Of any type. It just had to do with the stupid stuff the kids having.
Probably had
I was
more
going to
to
go
do
to
with-
Dawn and
more to do
Stoughton,
with
except
weight.
Dawn Did you hang up, Dawn? I was just about to go to Dawn. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. And Jerry, I was about to go to Dawn and Stoughton, wanted to talk about guns, but I guess we lost him.
Sure.
But this is probably him coming back. So coming up at 7 o'clock, we'll have a guest that will join us for a little while. And he's actually with Red State and some other things that are out there. And I'm going to tell you about him in a second here. We're going to tackle the issue of the cancer culture, right? The cancer culture that's out there, and what's going on with cancer culture, because it's out of control. I got to tell you. And one of the things, I mean, I've experienced, the shadow blocking, the straight out stuff with Facebook, nothing on Twitter. I did respond, and I got to tell you, I did respond to people on Facebook, and they know who they are, and I know who they are. But I'll share that before we go into the 7 o'clock hour. So I responded a little earlier in the week, and to all the folks out there on Facebook and getting out of Facebook jail, as they say. So who is the whining, and you can put your own term in choice of there, whatever you'd like to call the little whining person out there that keeps reporting that the content and my monologues hurt their delicate sensibilities. Why not stop hiding behind your keyboard? Stop being a bully and so damn arrogant and self-righteous with your virtue signaling, and call the show. I'm on the air several hours a week. Have been every Saturday morning. We're going into our 14th year, 36 years overall on the air, plus other appearances with open lines. And my mic is always open. I don't screen the callers for the topic. It's open to all. And that was the number one premise for Mike Wade and myself when Mike kicked off Conservatively Speaking. We just ask that you be polite and don't waste my listeners' time. You have the info. Right? 508-871-7000. You have the text number. You have the email. I take calls, and I have conversations with people and callers from all points on the spectrum. Why don't you call like an adult, put your big boy or girl pants on, and grow the hell up? Now, my apologies to all those that are adult about the show, that listen and participate, those that agree and those that politely disagree with the show's content and my take on the issues. My apologies for wasting your time right now. You for having to stop important discussions and offering a voice of reason in this unreasonable time. It is you for who I do this. It is you for that I give this voice. It is for those that I take this heat and the names and attacks and even threats. So let me close with a heartfelt thank you to all those that have supported the show, stayed with us through changes in host times and formats. Thank you to those that have participated and offered their opinions and thoughts. If it was not for you, this show, and I and others, would not be here. And that would be a sad thing, in my opinion. There are very few voices of reason left out there, so keep tuning in, keep calling, and keep sending those letters, texts, and messages. Keep them coming in. And to the haters, there is no room for hate here. Engage and participate, or take a look at who you are and just move along. And that's what I had to say to people. But we're coming up to the break, but we will go to the phones at 508-871-7000 before we break for the 7 o'clock news. Gene, good morning, dear. Thank you for joining us. Jerry Doherty in studio with us.
Well, I'm telling you, I got a 2 for today, and thank you so much, Jerry, for being there. It's, a double bonus, a double rainbow. We thank you.
2 minutes, guys.
And also, I want to tell
Gene,
you
the first thing Jerry said when he walked in at 5:15 this morning is, are we going to hear from Gene? I hope she calls.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did.
He was looking forward to it.
I did.
Well, Jerry, I want to tell you something. I have something I have to call you about, so I'm going to, I will say that personally when we talk, but also, Joe, this lawsuit that just went through, Jerry, you got to be jumping up and down because you heard my big mouth screaming, and
minute and a half.
passionate, and it hits me for what has happened, the travesty. And you just said this big lawsuit is going through. Maybe somebody heard us on Radio Free America and said, hey, wait a minute, bingo, this is such a travesty. You know, sometimes when you get that passion from God, I don't do enough, but for God's sake, we have
1 minute exactly, one.
Joe,
Gene, we got 30 seconds, so bring it in. Wrap it up.
well,
Tell them what you need.
know, bringing it in is just saying right now, thanking you from the heart, that you can't be bought, that everyone has a voice, that this is still America, you know, and thank God for that. Both of you, all of the men of WCR,
35.
greatly appreciate.
All right, Gene, you're the best. You are absolutely the best, but we're running out of time. We got a break. We're going to do the news. When we come back on the other side, Brad Slager is going to join us, and Brad is with Red State and Town Hall and Hot Air and all these other things. But he recently wrote an article, and he's talking about
10 seconds.
So we'll be joined by Brad Slager when we come back from the news on the Joe Mangiacotti Show with Jerry Doherty in studio. Stick with us.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester.
7 o'clock.
Special report, civil rights icon dies. I'm Christopher Cruz. Georgia Democratic Congressman and revered civil rights leader John Lewis has passed.
Lewis was the youngest speaker at the 1963 March on Washington and had his skull broken by white police officers on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in 1965 during what became known as Bloody Sunday. He went back a few months ago for the 55th anniversary.
We were beaten, we were tear gassed. I thought I was going to down this bridge.
First elected in 1986, Lewis was known as the conscience of the Congress. Late last year, he revealed that he was being treated for stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Jerry Bodlander, Washington.
Lewis was the youngest and last survivor of the big civil rights activists led by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. John Lewis dead of pancreatic cancer at the age of 80. Special report, the death of a civil rights icon. I'm Christopher Cruz. The mayor of Portland, Oregon is demanding the removal of militarized federal agents that President Trump deployed to the city after often violent protests. The agents have reportedly detained people far from the federal property they were sent to protect. At least half of all adults in the U.S. live in households where paychecks shrank or disappeared because of the coronavirus pandemic.
More than 20 million Americans lost their jobs in April. A weekly survey conducted by the Census Bureau several weeks later tracked the states where the impact was greatest. In Hawaii, which depends on tourism, more than 6 out of 10 reported a loss of income. In Nevada, where all the casinos were shut down, almost as many were affected. The number was near 60% in New York and California, too. Lesser hit areas included the nation's capital, where about a third said they lost income. I'm Jan Johnson.
And I'm Christopher Cruz.
President Trump tweeted that he's not happy with Fox News, and he's now watching Newsmax TV. Trump says Newsmax TV is much better than Fox. Join President Trump and tune into Newsmax TV, America's fastest-growing cable news channel on all major cable systems: DirecTV, Xfinity, Dish, Spectrum, Cox, Optimum, Fios, Uverse, Suddenlink, Mediacom, and more. Check your cable guide. Plus, see great Newsmax TV shows with Sean Spicer, Greg Kelly, Michelle Malkin, Mike Huckabee, and Alan Dershowitz, and great reports like our special series on David Horowitz's new bestseller, Blitz. Blitz reveals the real agenda of groups like Antifa and the secret billionaires out to stop Trump. Mike Huckabee says if everyone read Blitz, Trump would win. So join President Trump and tune into Newsmax TV today. And don't forget to get David Horowitz's new book, Blitz. It's a New York Times and Amazon bestseller at bookstores. Or get the free offer and save $28. Call 800-NEWSMAX or go to blitz411.com. That's blitz411.com.
Golden Group Roofing is a community brand. From our Master Elite roofers and industry partners to our clients, every single person represents the Golden Group standard. We strive every day to make your home's needs a priority because Golden Group invests in you and your communities. With unbeatable craftsmanship, customer satisfaction, reasonable pricing, Golden Group Roofing stands above the rest. Having been awarded GAF Master Elite Contractor, Certainty Select Shingle Master, and GAF Energy Certified Solar, Golden Group Roofing is 100% worthy of your investment. Experience the Golden Group difference, where hands protect what matters most. Visit us at goldengrouproofing.com or call us at 508-873-1884. 508-873-1884.
I'm Reverend Peter Preble, host of Faith in America on WCRN 830 AM. On Faith in America, we hold conversations at the crossroads of faith and society. Faith in America, Sunday mornings at 6 a.m., right here on WCRN.
I want to tell you what Cantiani Insurance has been able to do for me and Teddy. We stopped in to see Paul Sr. and the great staff at 318 Plantation Street. They've been handling my car and business insurance for years. Teddy was making his way around the office, and they let me know. They now offer pet insurance. For a fraction of what one visit to the vet was for Teddy, they could cover him for a whole year. I know you treat your furry family members like any other family member, and as well as I do Teddy. The professional staff at Cantiani has been providing courteous service for over 40 years, with integrity and personalized service, making sure that your insurance actually protects you and your family. With 2 locations, the 318 Plantation Street in Worcester and East Douglas Insurance Agency, located at 306 Main Street in Douglas. For home, auto, business insurance, and now pet insurance, click CantianiAgency.com or call 508-791-2088. 508-791-2088.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system, and get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com, and like me, you'll be glad you did.
This is the Joe Mangicotti Show. Our topics are large and small. When you really need to know, we are the show. You want to know, it's time to talk to Joe.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second hour of the Joe Mangicotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN and their affiliates, as well as live streaming on the TuneIn app. Just punch in WCRN and you can take us anywhere. Our lines are open and available at 617-871-7000. Our text line is 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388, or email us at textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. Jerry Doherty from Making Money Last in studio with me. I join Jerry every Thursday for Political Thursday, and Jerry joins me usually the second Saturday of the month, but due to the 4th of July weekend, where we kind of did a replay with everything, Jerry's joining us this week. And again, you can reach us at 508-871-7000. Jerry is Making Money Last is the show, but his business is Boston Independence Group, where you really concentrate on retirement planning, and you do one thing and you do it very well. And people can reach you how? On directly, not on the air. They know how to do that.
Yeah. Best way for them to reach me is 877-772-1776. Again, that's 877 772-1776, and that'll go right into my main office in Westboro, just about a mile away from the studio.
Fantastic. But at this time, I'd like to invite into the conversation Brad Slager. And Brad is a active political commentator, red state, and, well, some other things. Let us bring him into the conversation. First of all, good morning, Brad.
How are we doing, gentlemen? Good morning.
Good, fantastic. First of all, thank you for getting up early on a Saturday morning. I know you're in the same time zone, but it's still early on a Saturday morning, so that is greatly appreciated.
Not a problem. You probably instilled a little bit of discipline on me on a Friday night as a result.
I just raked him back. Yeah, we chatted yesterday, and he said, "Yeah, don't go out too late. Right? You got to get up early in the morning." I got to ask you, on your Twitter account, Brad Slager, you have AKA Wuhan Solo. What's the story behind that?
Oh, that's just and a few of us. I'm also involved in a lot of the entertainment coverage. Got some movie articles and podcasting I do, so we were just doing plays on the name, so we went with Han Solo.
Han Solo.
Wuhan Solo.
Wuhan Solo. So you're the villain? Is it the virus that Wuhan Solo is going to slay? Is that the
pretty much
Okay.
Fantastic. Whoever has to get the shot first, I guess, is the way to read it.
So, folks, if you want to follow Brad on Twitter, actually go to Martini Shark. So I'm sure there's another story there. But I wanted I asked you to come on because we wanted to talk about the cancer culture a little bit. And to me, it's out of control. Let me just, where I come from this, that when you orchestrate a campaign to get somebody fired from their job, their corporate job that has nothing to do with their political opinions, right? We've seen the president of Mozilla who had to step down because he made a contribution. You see the constant boycotting of Chick-fil-A. We've seen even the left, people in the left aren't safe. It's like this cancer culture machine will eat their own as well. When did the cancer culture start kicking up like this?
That's really tough to pin down, only because this kind of social outrage has been around for a while. For some reason, it feels like maybe during the Obama administration is when it started to get a foothold, where people were getting some kind of empowerment by going after others. And, it wouldn't be enough to just walk away, turn the channel, don't read the book, don't go to the website. You had to go further and stifle their voice. You had to get rid of their outlet. And it seemed to, I guess, during that administration, it was made permissible, and it's only been ramping up with the Donald Trump era. I mean, it's getting to the point, the reason I'm covering it so much is that it's starting to affect, the things that I cover, like movies, entertainment, various things of that nature. But you're also seeing it in the media, which is a constant subject of mine as well. We had Oliver Darcy and Brian Stelter over at CNN went on a mission to deplatform InfoWars. And you can say what you want about that outlet. I wasn't a big fan of it myself, but I recall saying at the time, this is a bad idea. When you've got media going after media to silence them, that's going to be a self-destructive force. And now we're starting to see that exact thing taking place.
Well, I agree 100%. I mean, like you said, it's not enough to say, I don't like what you're saying, so I'm going to agree to disagree and change the channel, walk away from the discussion. We've got this mentality where now we've got to destroy you. It's not enough that you are, wrong in my opinion. Now I'm going back to 2016 when Donald Trump first announced, and I had my very liberal know-it-all sister actually say to me, "Oh my God, Donald Trump's we've got to get rid of him. We've got to silence him." And of course, I come from years of talk radio where I say, well, you don't destroy him, you don't get rid of him if you're so confident in your position and your points, then engage him and beat him in the debate. Because if you're truly correct, you have no problem entering a debate or having an argument because you're confident in your position. And if you're saying to me right now, no, you can't allow him to even have a platform. You can't even allow him to be heard. We got to get rid of him before he's able to speak. I said then, well, this is not a good path that we're on. And then we see companies, FedEx just said, hey, we're gonna not advertise. We want to take our name off of your stadium if you don't change the name. Was it the Redskins, right?
Right.
So if Redskins now, where is it okay? Because when you wrote the $100 million check to put FedEx up on the building, you had no problem with that.
Yeah, exactly.
So why do you have a problem with it now? What are you afraid of? And should you be forgiven? I mean, what is that about? So when we go after, why is it not enough? And why do we accept that? And does it have something to do, Brad, with those that are punching feel that they can't be punched back? Because you're less likely to punch if you think you're going to get a punch back in the head, right? I mean, you calculate that.
Oh, yeah.
So are these people all hiding behind their keyboards?
Pretty much. You also have to recognize that a lot of it is being supported by the media because for a time at least, they were going after targets on the right. So when that was the case, the mainstream media was either silent or even kind of backing them a little bit because they preferred the target. Now what's happened is social media is becoming such a loud mouthpiece. Now, it doesn't necessarily represent a large percentage of the population, but they are a loud megaphone. So when a group of people on social media complain, it feels like a groundswell, and companies are reacting. We're seeing that over the last few years as well, where corporations will react to these digital outrages that aren't really genuine outrage. And it's coming back and biting. I mean, Target has had problems with it. Dick's Sporting Goods reacted to it. Stories like that go on down the line, and they each end up paying a price in the end because they lose customer bases. They end up biting themselves with that kind of reaction.
Yeah.
Now that outrage mob is feeling so ennobled in what they're doing that they're going after any target they can, and now it's the left versus the left that we're witnessing.
Brad, in studio with me is Jerry Doherty. He hosts Making Money Last weekdays here on the station, and he's going to jump in for a second.
Brad, I have a question for you. Brad, when I grew up, the philosophy, the precept, I guess, that we grew up under is that I may not like what you have to say, but I will defend your right to say it. So I think, Brad, throughout history in the United States, I'd imagine that there's always been this idea that we're going to silence people who have opposing opinions. But it seems that precept of I may not like what you have to say, but I'll defend your right to say it, always won out because it's a very American ideal, that we have an open exchange of ideas and that we'll move forward with a little bit of your ideas and a little bit of my ideas. But somehow it seems that this complete silencing, the cancel of culture, it seems like this complete silencing is winning out. So I understand when you answered earlier about when it changed under the Obama administration, but how has it been allowed to change? Because it seems that some of our basic precepts have always won out. I don't know how things are changing right now that these different ways of doing things, these kind of un-American ways of doing things are winning today. When did kind of the tide shift? And not so much when did the tide shift, but how has that tide shifted?
Well, it's been very gradual. It's been an incremental change. It used to be, just to go back to Hollywood, which I cover, censorship used to be, the one line in the sand nobody would ever cross. And when it came to altering their product, it was like, well, you can't go there. Through the years, though, it's become more permissible. And a lot of times, Hollywood and the studios are the ones permitting it, especially in regards to China, because they're trying to get into that market so desperately. The Chi-Coms put mass restrictions on that entire film market. They even mandate what content is allowable in films. And Hollywood has been willing to alter their product for that marketplace. And it's those kind of steps that have been taking place that makes this kind of attitude of canceling, censoring more and more permissible. And like I said earlier, too, when we're seeing members of the media that are entering this, that's when it's really getting surreal because for myself and a lot of others on the right, we're the ones defending free speech these days. We're the ones saying, don't do this, don't shut down this outlet, don't silence this voice. And yet they still try to accuse the right as being the ones that are involved in cancel culture. Most of the stories I've done recently I did a lengthy town hall piece this week about Barry Weiss leaving the New York Times, and I've done a series of articles at Red State. Almost exclusively, it's the left going after the left, trying to silence their own voices over there. And this is going to be so self-defeating that I'm kind of positive that there is going to be a reckoning on their side at some point in time that this is a bad idea.
Yeah. But how is that going to fold out? Because you see now it's okay to go back. I mean, somebody says something, and they go back years through not just their social media tweets and postings, but they're going back to things they've written in school and papers. And, of course, we're very different people at 18 and 20 than we are at 35 or 40 years old, right? And we evolve and we learn, we get life experiences. And it just doesn't seem that anybody is safe now. I mean, it used to be if you were part of that elite left, you were okay. But we've seen, and we saw this letter come out, right, where all these Hollywood types and stuff signed it and saying enough is enough. Is that an indication that they're getting scared that they'll be the next target?
Are you talking about the Harper's Magazine?
Yes.
Yeah, that itself deserves so much scrutiny because you're right. There is some recognition on the left saying that we got to put a stop to this. This is the kind of thing we can't do. We need to be open to more ideas. But the reaction to that letter is so illustrative because you had a number of media figures coming out against the letter because of who signed it. There were names on there they didn't approve of. So they were attacking a letter that was backing free speech. And it's just the fact that they don't recognize that yet is the amazing part. So, that's why I'm encouraged that at some point in time that dawning is going to start to come across to them.
But, Brett, it's coming down to it's free speech is only free if you agree with me. And it's getting to be even not even left or right. It's like anybody that doesn't agree with you is not allowed to talk. And if they do talk, and is it really free speech if it's going to cost you your job or your business? We just saw Robert Onayou, right, of Goya. Now, here's a guy worth $1.1 billion. He has the second wealthiest Spanish family in the U.S., the 377th largest private-owned company, and he isn't going to apologize. And do we need more of that, don't we? We need more people. I mean, you can do that a little easier with $1 billion in the bank.
Sure. I'm sure he's operating from the standpoint of comfort there, but you're right. That is exactly the reaction you need to have, because when you start to buckle and cow to them, that just tells them they're doing the right thing in their mind. So they just keep going with this until people start.
Well, it's also telling them that you're afraid and that you'll get in line. You'll fall in line, and you won't. I mean, whether you're talking about people who, and this is why I make the argument that the silent majority might be a little bit bigger than it was in 2016, because because initially you saw people who supported, say, Trump in the 2016 election kind of come out a little bit in the early part of the administration. But I think that a lot of people have seen just how vicious it can be, and people who have lost jobs for really doing nothing. Look at the poor girl that was saying all lives matter, and she ended up being shot to death by the Black Lives Matter people. I mean, that's the extreme of it. But free speech isn't free if it costs you so much. So people